Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 391 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. I'm your host, Anthony Renda. The show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. All right, today on the StrengthCoach.com and NBSC.TV Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about focusing on health, not health care, and a study about the loss of power as we age, something he's been talking about for a long time, and why the authors want to introduce the term Powerpenia. For the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on Justin Frandson. Justin is an athleticism performance coach and soon-to-be naturopathic doctor. He founded Athleticism.com. He's also the author of the book, Athleticism, which we're going to talk about. He will define what he thinks athleticism is and go into his whole body, whole brain formula. He'll talk about understanding subtle energies of nature to optimize your health and performance, getting athletes into a flow state and understanding brain waves, the importance of ambidexterity, the problems with wearables, EMFs, what they are and how they're disrupting our endocrine system, and so much more. Really interesting stuff coming up from Jason in a little bit. For the Naamly Maximizing the Member Experience segment, with Sumit, the founder of Naamly, Sumit's going to talk about hiring. How do we identify someone is the right fit for our company? And he loves his acronym, so he's going to use the acronym CAR, which stands for Chemistry, Activity, and Results. Now, our special series with Allie Gilbert, the queen of men's health and the founder of the Silverback Summit, is done. And if you've been listening, you know I was there. I was in Arizona. And I'm so glad I went on a bunch of different levels, whether that's like learning a lot more about TRT, which I think is really what's coming. It's, you could tell from what Allie was doing there and how much bigger it's gotten. Went from 40 people 2 years ago to, I think, a little less than 100 last year, and now 200 people. And she's bringing together doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, physical therapists, trainers. And you could see the growth here and how the stigma is changing for sure. On a personal level, for me, the big takeaway was some stuff about podcasting. Really great lecture from Andrew Zaragoza, who is the guy behind the Mark Bell podcast and a couple more, actually. Great guy, has a course out called Pursue Podcasting. I'm taking it right now. I've already kind of changed some of the things I'm doing, including the sound. I'm not sure if you can tell. Hopefully you can. New mic and just learning a few more things about that. Lots of takeaways there for me. Social media, some stuff on social media. Allie's guy that she uses, I imagine. Great stuff from him and some other business stuff. But very cool weekend. And Allie's actually offering this week only super early bird price to the Silverback Summit next year, 2025 in November. So check that out at silverbacksummit.com. You don't want to miss that. Guys, Perform Better's huge holiday sale is here. Up to 50% off over 100 items, including dumbbells, kettlebells, plyo boxes, bumper plates, racks, barbells, sandbags, medicine balls. I mean, so much more. 50% off, not on everything, but up to 50% off. Again, over 100 items. They also have 2 free webinars coming up in December. Jessica Bento is doing redefining kettlebell training on December 10th. And on December 17th, Corey Smallwood is doing AI-powered fitness sources, master ChatGPT to drive growth, engagement, and efficiency. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Guys, lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, guys, now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com and NBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. Don't forget StrengthCoach.com, articles, videos, and pretty much the longest running forum in strength and conditioning and fitness. And you can try StrengthCoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to StrengthCoach.com to start your trial. Also, NBSC.TV, where you're basically a fly on the wall at NBSC. staff meetings, programs, seminars, and in-services from top coaches. You can try it out for 7 days for free. Go to mbsc.tv. Coach, how you doing?
I am doing well, Anthony. How are you?
All right.
The Mike Potenza weather report. It's a little bit cold and rainy here. Actually, we were down. My heat went on this morning, which it has not done. We've been using our fireplace the whole time, like wood stove, and the heat has not gone on. And this morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden the heat kicked on because it's like, oh my God, we're spending money.
Yeah. We kind of went through that here a little before you did. We kind of had that little wave of it was nice, and all of a sudden got cold. We were waking up. It was mild yesterday. This morning woke up, it was 33. So the Tenza will be happy to hear what's going on in New England weather, but as well as the Midwest here in Indianapolis. So I don't know where the Sharks are playing right now, but I'm not sure if he's even traveling with the team, being such a high level performance coach that he is. So, Coach, I thought this was interesting. Somebody had tweeted, I forget his name. I can't believe I didn't put it up. Modern healthcare, absolutely outstanding at treating most chronic diseases, even compared to just 5 years ago. But modern healthcare is not designed to prevent the onset of most chronic diseases. That's why we need to focus more on health, not healthcare. You kind of retweeted, so true. This needs to be done 2 to 3 times a week. So I want you to clarify, because I'm like, no, this needs to be done 7 days a week. And when I say it, I mean strength training 2 to 3 days a week, some different cardio, high cardio. We talked about this with, the Dr. Andy Galpin thing. Hey, there needs to be some medium cardio. Let's call it zone 2. It needs to be a low level cardio, mostly zone 2 type stuff, medium cardio day, high intensity cardio day, at least, in the very least, for the average person. Some strength training. But I'm also talking about, hey, you need to take those stairs. You need to get some, go for those. Robert Yang just posted about, or sent the newsletter out about intermittent walking, right? So that idea about the importance of getting that blood sugar leveled off with the study was done with 2-mile-an-hour walks for 15 minutes up to about a half hour after you eat, to kind of really level off that insulin response. So I think it needs to be more. I don't think it's enough to say 2 to 3 days a week. So talk to me about what you meant by when you you retweeted this, and what you were talking about when you say 2 to 3 times a week.
Well, I think I was addressing the minimum, really, in terms of, okay, if you can get into the gym twice a week, then you're in the right direction. I think when I always kind of look at our MBSC adult population, and I guess it is, as you described, it's probably 2 days a week of strength training and some sort of higher intensity interval training. And then you're hoping that people are doing some things on their own, like you said, that they're taking walks, that they're doing some other things. And yes, I think there's a really big space between minimal and optimal. And I think what I'm kind of addressing is, hey, bare minimum, you got to get out and strength train 2 days a week. And like for us, that's why we do everything when we're there. We're not leaving anything to chance in terms of, hey, I'd really love for you to get some high intensity cardiovascular work in, but we're trying to do most of the stuff that we think people wouldn't do. So if I would look at that and, we talk about that first 15 idea. I want people foam rolling. I want people stretching. I want people warming up. I want people trying to pick up at least a relatively heavy weight, something that challenges their muscular system. I want them to hit that intensity zone that they wouldn't hit on their own, because most people, the average person, if you say, hey, I want you to do some cardiovascular work, they're going to probably go out and take a walk. Very few people.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about the person who's doing HIIT 3 times a week on their own. They're doing a really good job with their healthcare. What I'm worried about is the person who maybe the sum total of their exercise is what they get in those 2 days at MBSC. That's why we've actually been not pushing, and pushing is probably a bad term, but really trying to get people to upgrade their membership plans to 3 days a week, trying to get people in there 3 days a week. I was very excited last Saturday. we had, I think I counted 33 adults on Saturday morning, which is really high for us. We had 3 adult groups. All of them were a little bit oversubscribed. They're supposed to, I think, be 9, and they were all 10, 11. And that's good. That shows us that we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I thought it was a kind of a good idea. Lifetime had this thing where you could sell some sessions till the end of the year, right? But it was only add-on sessions, so it was a reduced amount. So if you're coming in twice a week, what they were trying to do is get you to come in 3 days a week, 3 days a week. So there's 6 more, let's say, in the year, right? So like, get these 6 sessions at a 25% off, just to encourage people. But it had to be used before the end of the year, and it was really for the extra session. So I like that idea that you guys are trying to get them to come in those more days.
Yeah.
But you're right, though, too. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast with things like the rock mat or whatever. There's certain things that we can't do everything. And same thing with the zone 2 cardio. I mean, we don't have time for the amount of time that they're recommending. It's tough. It's tough. So I love that idea. I think it's a great philosophy of we're going to try to do everything that they wouldn't be able to do on their own.
Yes, exactly. That really is our goal, for me at least, is to try to get people. Like I said, I really want to get I want to get people in there on that extra day. And I'm actually writing a note right now in terms of we need to push this upgrade to 3 idea in the new year.
I mean, I really need to get paid more. I mean, there's the ideas just come out from these
Yeah,
podcasts. I mean,
have you seen Night Shift?
yeah, yeah, with Henry Winkler, right?
Yeah, Billy Blaze. You're
Yeah.
Michael Keaton. You're an idea man. Uh, Anybody who has not seen Night Shift, mandatory watching. You need to sit down and watch Night Shift, and you'll realize that Anthony is an idea man.
The interns, for it's what they get to. They need to watch that every at the beginning of their.
Oh,
Mike, you've been talking forever. I don't. It might be at least 17 years about this idea that we lose power at a greater rate than we lose strength. And it's important. Power, power, power. It's actually the influence it had on me was I make sure, I train mostly older people. One of the things that everybody knows, I carry around a ball, my own ball, 4-pound ball, because I want to make sure I always have it. And I have a ladder, right? And I got 85 now, 85-year-old woman doing ladder. She's throwing the ball. Everybody I get throws the ball around and does some kind of, even if it's not, bounds, uh, but we're doing something. Even she does what I call them skaters for her, but we're doing that stuff. I call it the power playground. I tell them, look, just to so they understand, we're going back to the playground. That's what you miss. I don't believe you stop playing because you get old. I believe you get old because you stop playing. I always love that. But your influence on that idea of power, power, power as we age, this is what we really need. And that's you retweeted somebody who wrote about a study, and they wanted to introduce Powerpenia, the loss of muscle power. It should be considered a biomarker of healthy aging. And in the study, I read the kind of the overview of it. Skeletal muscle power is more influential than muscle strength and mass in enhancing physical function, reducing falls in older adults, and is more sensitive marker of disease presence and or physical inactivity, which it's really a good continuation of the conversation we had last time about the machine debate. So I just wanted you to talk about this.
yeah, and I'm going to give credit. It was a guy named Joe Signorelli, and it was at, I think, one of the very early Perform Betters down in Miami. He did a presentation, and I just remember that he talked about, because he was basically, his thing was training older clients. I forget what the name of the presentation was, but it was about training older people, which at that time I was probably in my 40s, and he was talking about training people in their 70s or 80s, and he popped up with those stats, which I believe were from his own research, and he said that people as they age were losing, let's just say, 10% of their power per decade or something like that, or 10% of their strength, but 17% of their power. in each following decade, say after 40. So, 40 to 50, your strength goes down 10%, but your power goes down 17. I remember the example he said is then you go 40 to 50, you've lost 20% of your strength, but you've lost 35% of your power. You've lost almost a third of your power. And this is when you look, like I even see it myself. God, my vertical jump now compared to what it was even 10 years ago is embarrassing. I used to be able to, get on the just jump mat at any point in time and do a 20. You know what I mean? Like just pop it out. And I mean, I had a 30 something at one point. So when you start looking at it, I had that 1/3 drop, but now I do it and I can't break 20. I'll do it and I'll be like 18, 19, and I can't even get in the 20s. And so even with trying really, really hard and being really, really active, being on my feet a lot, being in the gym, demonstrating, as you said, plyos, you're losing it. And then getting people, and you have to redefine. I think the problem is we have dumb trainers who don't look at power and say, wait a second, like you said, it may be skaters, shifting weight from side to side. You could call that, hey, a lateral bound. But if you're going 2 feet, it's probably not a lateral bound. But for that person, it is.
Sure.
You're doing a 1-2 stick in the ladder. Okay, that's a unilateral plyometric for that person. That's a push into a landing kind of thing. And realizing that stuff is absolutely critical as people age. So I love this. I don't know, Powerpenia. I don't know if you'll be able to get the term to stick, but I love the idea.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought it was a good continuation from the machine debate. And Jordan Weber, great guy, great. He sent me some studies on the fact that machine work was really just as effective for quote unquote the functional training, right, as some of this functional training. And I don't know what they used or what they were considering functional training, and Jordan and I kind of had a little bit of discussion on that, but for this, I like this because it does say, right, the skeletal muscle power. I don't think you're going to get that from machines. I don't have any studies, and I said even to Jordan, for me personally, you got to go with your gut sometimes, and in order to improve at the thing, you got to do the thing
Right.
sometimes. So to me, a lunge, right, is going to be better than
Yeah,
leg extension, right?
for us is like the MVP shuttle. We use that a lot for beginners with power because we can do explosive lower body stuff with less than body weight. So I think if you have maybe a particular type of machine, it might in fact be possible. But I think you're right. In general, you're not going, and again, you can think some of the Kaiser equipment, you probably could do some stuff with when you don't have a weight stack where you're trying to accelerate the the pace of the movement, I guess. But in general, it's med ball throws and some sort of jump or hop. And again, the biggest thing is don't be a dummy. Really, really low level. And the higher the age, the lower the level. I can remember Al Vermeil talking about basketball players, and he said, the taller the guy, the lower the obstacle. And I remember thinking, what? And he said, yeah, tall guys that, they're tall, but they don't jump that well. He said, I got some of my tall guys jumping 6-inch mini hurdles. He said, because they don't need, he said, the guys that are jumping 30-inch hurdles tend to be the guards. And so, you've got to look at this and think, okay, the older the person, the lower the obstacle. The older the person, the lower the amplitude. You have to realize that I always say anything faster than the speed at which they normally move or the rate at which they normally move is power work.
Love it. That's an excellent guide, I think. And Mike, for you, just to finish on this, you said you're like, so the vertical jump has gone down a little bit. Is there any, no, I, not from the 30, I meant from the last, like from the 20, now it's into the teens. So maybe the last couple of years. Have you done anything in the last couple of years though, to in your training to specifically work on some of that stuff besides like you said, the demos?
Yeah,
No.
no, really, no. I don't really do. I've gotten to the point, unfortunately for me, my knees are not great and they don't tolerate. I should probably be doing some shuttle jumps a couple days a week on my own just to try to rectify that. One of the things I find for me is that when I start moving fast, other stuff starts hurting. I start all of a sudden, my neck starts
Yeah.
stiffening up, and that's the problem is that you get to a point where it's going to be too late, and that's why I think having that be part of what these people do. But that's why I'm lucky in the sense that I've been jumping and hopping and throwing medicine balls for now 45 years. So luckily, I've got some residual. If you looked at me, most people would be like, wow, you're in great shape for 65. You move well for 65, but you do realize we've talked about this, with the whole orthopedic cost idea and all these other things. Time is undefeated, and you are going to lose the battle, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much bullshit you spout on X or on Instagram or whatever it is. We're all going to lose the battle. It's just a matter of what we've got to be doing right now is staying in the fight.
Yeah, I was actually at Ali Gilbert's Silverback Summit a couple weeks ago, and somebody had mentioned to me like, "Oh, well, you look at Coach Boyle; he's great." And I said, "No, no, no, he's not. He just does one good rep. Come on, that's his motto." So, but Mike, not to bring up always my stuff, but I've learned so much over the last couple months, going back on the ice and, a bit, heart rate stuff and speed stuff. And like you said, so one of the stick times there was a goalie there. And it was probably the first time or second time that now I'm like kind of going at game speed because I'm like doing some breakaways on him here and there. Right. And my back that night was hurt because I was now going faster. I was now, shooting the puck. I was now reaching, maybe doing a couple dekes here and there. And I'm like, geez, so every little and they give me a hard time here at my house because I'm always like, how was it? Yeah, my neck's hurting a little bit. Like, you're not even playing with anybody. I'm like, I don't care. I'll get there. All right. I'll get there. But to your point, you get older and I think I am so happy I'm doing this now because, I want to play. I'm 57. I want to play. And I'm not lying. I want to play in 30 years, in 35 years. There's a guy we saw on the internet. They all sent it to me like, oh, this is going to be your competition. The guy's 94 and he's still playing up in Canada. I know he's an outlier, but I want to I want to go out in the ice. I want to go do that stuff. So
I'm
I
just
think,
looking and I just want to be alive. I mean, if I'm alive in 30 years, I'll be happy. I don't have to be jumping around the gym, but
yeah, see, I'm Italian. So we don't worry about that. We're like cockroaches. We go to about 100 anyway, so it's in the DNA. So no, but I want to make sure that we talked about this before, that the health span as opposed to the lifespan. I want to be doing those things
and
that,
that's that tweet, in terms of looking at this in terms of health care is what we do. That health care is our business because we are the best. And I've said this at seminars for years. We are the best healthcare professionals in the world. We are doing more to keep people alive and functioning than anybody else is doing. Doctors are dealing with the emergencies. Doctors are handling, hey, something went wrong. I got to go to the doctor. But the day-to-day maintenance of the system, we're kind of the mechanics. We're the Valvoline guys or whatever. Okay, you got to take that car in every couple of months and get the oil changed. And the guy's always going to be like, well, do you want us to rotate the tires? Do you want us to change the wiper blades? Do you want us to put a new oil filter in? And I'm at the point with my car, I was like, yeah, do whatever. Do everything. Because if it costs me another $200, but it keeps my car running, great. And I feel like that's how we should be pushing that upgrade idea with people at the gym in terms of, I feel like everybody should be a 3-day member, not a 2-day member. And obviously that's great for us from a business standpoint. It moves our revenue up by a third
sure.
in that adult market, which isn't a bad thing, but that's not my motivation. My motivation is not that we make more money. My motivation is that we do a better job taking care of the people that basically trust us to take care of them. That's what they're doing.
And I will say it's sometimes it's not very sexy because when I'm working with these people, the biggest satisfaction I've gotten and it's happened a lot is people saying to me, listen, I really appreciate everything you do. I feel so much better. My back, since I've been working with you, my back doesn't hurt anymore. I could do some of those things. But that being said, other people might not see that thing, because I'm not working on a six pack. I'm not working on getting bigger arms with these people. These people are feeling better. They're telling me, hey, I went down to Hilton Head. I was able to golf. First time we played 36 3 days in a row. I was fine. I didn't normally I can't walk. I'm playing on Advil. That was the thing that really got me up in the morning, and still does with my people. But it's not always something other people can see or other trainers can see, but it does move the needle for me. And I think you got to believe in it. It's got to be what you want to do. But I'm happy to that, that impact, like you said, that we have is really important.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, we hear that all the time from people. We'll hear that this time of year where people will say, I went skiing for the first time and felt great. And they know that it's because they've been doing the lower body work that we've been asking them to do and all that stuff. I don't think the hard part for us probably is that, and that's why I kind of retweet some of this stuff too. I'm hoping that our clients will see it, because I don't think we make the connection often enough for our clients in terms of what this really is doing for them and in the bigger picture.
Yeah, so true. The only problem right now too is we didn't talk about anything. I'm not going to be able to get a controversial clip out of this for the gram. So, but on that note, Coach, which is very rare for you, I will. I'll let you go. Thanks for doing this. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thankful for you. Appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Same, right back at you. I'm so thankful for all that you do for me and all you've done for me over whatever the last million years. So
it's been about 1 million.
Welcome back to Naamly's Maximizing the Member Experience segment with me, your host, Sumit Seth, co-founder of Naamly, where we delve into the strategies and tactics that elevate your business and helps you foster personalized connections at scale so you can create the remarkable community. Now, we do know that to build that community, it's critical to have the right people in the right roles. And if you're an existing email subscriber of mine, you would have probably noticed that we've been trying to recruit someone to join our team for, well, quite some time. And I'm sure you all grapple with the same question: hiring and identifying if someone is really the right fit. Well, I've got a simple system and an acronym that goes with it. You do know how much I love my acronyms. So it all comes down to the acronym CAR, C-A-R, chemistry, activity, and results. Think of it as your guide to making sure every new hire is sitting in the correct seat on your team's car as you drive towards success. So car for car. Clever, right? Let's break this down. Starting with C for chemistry. Chemistry is all about alignment with your core values. Do the potential hire's belief and work ethics mesh with the culture you've built at your gym? Ask yourself, do our core values match? And do I genuinely believe this person will excel in the role and in my company? It's important to point out that we don't want to hire someone whom we just like. That is a sure shot way to disaster. After all, different roles have different demands and needs, so it's imperative that we not get swayed by people whom we like, but are truly mindful of the role, the skill set, and the demand of that position. More about that in a minute. However, in this C concept, it's imperative that we understand that we are vibing at the same frequency from a cultural perspective. You want someone who embodies the same values, be it punctuality, attention to detail, to speaking up when there are issues, to what have you. You want someone who enhances your culture, not disrupts it. Remember, when there's strong chemistry, the entire team operates more harmoniously. And you can absolutely have people with different skill sets, different ways of thinking, but still fundamentally dialed in on the core values. That's what really makes a dream team. Next, we have A for activity. This is where you evaluate if the candidate is a good match for the work that needs to be done. Do they have the skills and energy to execute their responsibilities effectively? And hell, if they don't have that, do they have the enthusiasm and the drive to learn, to acquire those skills and energy to make it happen? For instance, if you're hiring a new trainer, you want someone who's not only knowledgeable, but also thrives in the fast paced environment of a busy gym. Activity is about ensuring they're prepared and excited to tackle the day to day demands of the role. Finally, there's R for results. At the end of the day, we hire people to get things done and meet specific goals. The activity that they do needs to result in outcomes. Now, this step is about setting clear, measurable key performance indicators, your defined metrics for success. Can this person deliver the results you need? For example, if you're hiring a sales associate, what are their targets? And do they have a proven track record of meeting or exceeding similar goals? Being results driven keeps everyone on track and ensures that the team as a whole is moving forward. So there you have it, CAR, chemistry, activity, results. It's a simple but powerful framework to ensure your hiring process is aligned with your gym's mission and goals. By making sure your new employees are in the right seat in your car, you're setting your business up for a smoother and more successful journey. And remember, hiring isn't just about filling a role. It's about finding someone who can grow with your team and contribute to your gym's long-term vision. Use CAR as your guide to identify your next star employee and keep your team rolling towards success. Thanks for tuning into today's segment with me, your host, Sumit Seth, the co-founder of Naamly. If you found this helpful, be sure to sign up for the free bundle we've put together for you that will give you more insights on running your gym like a well-oiled machine. Until next time, keep driving your gym forward and stay inspired.
All right, guys, now it's time for the Hit Gym with the Strength Coach segment. And I have on Justin Frandson. He is an athleticism performance coach, author, and soon-to-be naturopathic doctor. He founded athleticism.com in 1996, doing nerve and coordination work with amateur and professional athletes. He saw them breaking down from electromagnetic radiation and looked to nature for the answers. His EMFrocks.com grounding bag, which I actually have, I've been using for the last couple of weeks, feeling like I've been getting some deeper sleep. So it's kind of cool. We're going to talk more about that. Now an industry leader in natural EMF protection. His book out is Athleticism. I've gotten through about half of it. It's called Athleticism, Whole Body plus Whole Brain equals Performance. Take your energy, speed, and coordination to a new dimension. Justin, thanks for doing this, bud.
Hey, Anthony, appreciate you having me on.
You and I were talking about like some of this stuff is definitely more accepted now, right? I'm sure you've been through the ringer with some of the things that maybe are in the book when you first started. But I love that, you have come from working with a lot of athletes. You brought up Dean Brittenham in the book, one of your big mentor. You came back from that strength and conditioning and track and field background. Could you just go over, give me the 35,000 foot view of your career, because you've been doing this for a while, and I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I was a tennis player. I grew up in Southern California. I wanted to play at USC and got hurt before I had an opportunity to. And so my whole life mission was to figure out how to optimize performance and allow people to play at the level that they feel they should play. Like I did, I felt I should play at that level and then even beyond. And I didn't get the chance. So I read an article in the newspaper, San Diego Union Tribune, about this guy named Dean Brittenham making athletes better athletes. And I'm like, that's it. And I couldn't put my finger on what I wanted to do. I studied entrepreneurship at SC and exercise science as well. I got my EMT cert from UCLA in 1994. And it was like, I was just dabbling in this space. And I'm like, how do I nail it down? And once I read that article, it was all about making athletes better athletes. I went into him. I said, Dean, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, okay, show up. And so that was it. But we were at a Scripps clinic in La Jolla. It was so fun because we had pros, Chargers, Padres, Pro Beach volleyball players like Liz Masakayan, like one of the winningest women pro athletes of all time, playing at that time with us. And we had just some incredible strength coaches like Steve Cotter, who founded the kettlebells, and the list goes on and on. So it was this incredible group that we had that we were training with, and as you know, Dean's son, Greg Brittingham, Dean got him the job as a strength coach for the New York Knicks, and he was with them for almost 25 years.
Yeah. We were talking. We had Greg on the show. He had the book out on the core. It was a great episode, and that book was great. I loved it, the way he systematized it, and it was awesome. As an athlete, I know I remember reading early on in the book. You were a top level athlete. Like, you were serious. Like, you were kind of Coach Boyle's nightmare of year round, right? Tennis, right? But you were a good a great athlete, and you kind of went into this and you were like, whoa, I'm feeling a little silly here, and doing some of these drills and some of the things that they were doing. I guess you said you were when you first started them. But what I like to do is, because the book's called Athleticism, and I just kind of want you to define athleticism for you, how you did it, how you talked about it in the book.
Oh, for sure. Well, let me backdrop.
Sure.
So Coach Mike and Dean Brittingham, I took over his program in the early 2000s when he retired, and and then there was a guy named Bill Henry that was the strength coach for the San Diego Padres. He was their athletic trainer and strength coach for the Padres, and he brought me in to consult with them. And then I used to go to these Perform Better, events and see Coach Mike at all of them. And
Wow.
so Bill Henry's like, "Here, Mike, meet Justin." He's like, "You got to watch out for this guy." So I met him literally 25 years ago.
Wow.
And then I haven't really spoken with him since, but we all have a long history in this arena, and it was really fun. There's guys that I would have fallen into his nightmare as a linear trained athlete, and that was what really drove me to what Dean was teaching. And I think a lot of these guys like Bill Henry really appreciated that I was doing differently when we started doing an athleticism program, is because we were making an entire athlete a better athlete. And there's not just one approach or one exercise that you do to make someone better, or one supplement you take. It was just this whole methodology of looking at the whole body and whole brain, and looking at both sides, and how to fire them optimally. So for us, the athleticism is just the purest form of coordination and rhythm, in flow with nature's resonance, like the infinite flow of the universe, that is explosive and graceful, and scores points and wins with ease and effortlessly. I mean, that's really athleticism in a nutshell.
Love it. So when you were talking, obviously, and even in the title of the book, right, it's whole body plus whole mind. And I think in general, this audience is going to resonate with whole body. I think whole mind, I think we need to go deeper into that right now, because you talk about awareness, coordination, figure eights, nerve work, ambidexterity. And so can you go a little bit deeper into this idea, like another 35,000 foot view of whole brain, please?
Yeah, for sure. Well, in the book, I really cover, one of my gifts is I've been just a forward thinker on a lot of this stuff, and being able to see the next trends and spot stuff along the way. And that's been one of the things. And now it's EMF is the electromagnetic fields. I've identified them as one of the biggest stressors, and we have an answer for that. But before that, it was breathing and balance and flexibility and fascia and all this other components that go into it. And So a lot of them were intangibles, if you will. And that was what I really built our business on, was the intangibles that you could see someone that you're like, oh my goodness, that athleticism was incredible, but you didn't know how to explain it or describe it other than it was so beautiful to watch. And it was the highlight of the weekend. And so that's kind of what we're talking to, these, we call them subtle energies. And so what I really feel the next level of strength coaches, what we're going to do is, because I consider myself one at heart, at foundation, even though I'm going into, the naturopathic lane more than ever now, but it's learning the subtle energies, period, and learning how we rev, and we're electromagnetic beings. And once you understand the physics of how we interplay with our environment, everything starts to make more sense. And it's all about boosting the energy up versus tearing it down. And guys like, the old Indiana basketball coach would throw chairs and he would break people down, like the Henry Bibbies. He had probably one of the worst display of coaching in the NCAA postseason tournament when we SC basketball team didn't make the big dance, and the only way to do it was the first year they had that postseason tournament where you can earn a spot, and he basically halftime, I think Young lit it up and was on the player of the tournament. And Bibby goes and just basically belittled him and said, "You're the worst player ever. You're not a team player." And he comes out the second half and he couldn't do anything. And so our own coach took the hottest player, not of the game, but out of the entire tournament, out of our own game mentally. And those are energy systems at work. And so when we start to dive into the subtle energies, we got to really know how the brain works, how the universe works, how they're based on. And to give a little more science behind it, they're based on scalar waves. We're basically unpolarized waveforms that distribute equally in every direction. During the nonsense, they didn't say stay 60 feet away from Justin's right ear in a straight line out of it. They said it's a resonance that goes out in every direction. That's our biofield. That's our energy field. Ours goes out about 6 to 8 feet all around us. Horses in the horse world, they can do 5 times that. That's how in tune these animals' subtle energies are with senses around them for safety reasons. So the more we can heighten those and develop those, the better we're going to be. Now, the next part of it is really understanding the universe's energies, and they're based on scalar waves. So there's this electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere, and these scalar waves are unpolarized. So when there's a cosmic shift, an atmospheric pressure shift, a full moon, our bodies feel it. It disrupts our REM patterns. And so, our bodies will adapt when they need to at the level they're capable of. But these energies, the resonance of the earth, are how we're one with nature and how we rev, sleep, and optimize. And so to be able to boost those is literally the most important thing. I'll take a break here, but I want to get into the brainwave states and we can calculate them next.
Okay, but we need to expand a little bit more on the subtle energies, because I'm even getting lost here, and I kind of have a little background with the book. So I want to make sure we're clear on what those things are, because do I do 3 sets of 10 bench press to get the subtle energies? You know what I mean? Like, so that's where we want to go. What are the subtle energies specifically? What are those tangible aspects? Maybe I know that you said they're intangible, but let's talk a little bit, get a little deeper in that maybe can make sense to the strength coach or personal trainer.
For sure. Yeah. And I know we're getting heady and some of the intangibles here, but again, this is where we got to look to for answers for performance. Because for a strength coach, let's just have you guys stand up and march in place. Okay. Just march in place. March, march, march. Okay. So what happens? your body, your energy system goes cross crawl. It's supposed to, at least. I'll stand up and lecture at conferences, and we'll have guys doing homolateral patterns where it's same arm, same leg. And they think they're just dancing, cross crawl. They're like same arm, same leg. And you're like, what the heck? It looks all weird. So to explain it for the strength coaches, so my wife, she's gorgeous, just amazing, beautiful. And she was so stunning when she was younger. And she would go into bars and she wouldn't want to get bugged because she was just hanging out with her girls, but they were so beautiful, people would just go over and bug them. So she would walk in, same arm, same leg, just to mess with people. And so everyone would look at them and go, God, they're freaking hot. But then they'd be like, there's something off, and they wouldn't go over and bug them. And so she figured this thing out where if they walked all weird in, no one would talk to them, even though however good looking they were. So it was kind
like
of
a Saturday Night Live skit.
It's just classic. And so anyhow, that's basically what we want to look at of these energy systems. So how do we build them? So if someone's not cross crawl, they're not going to be able to make a play, perform. They're going to be off that day. So we got to get those energies flowing innately how their body performs, which is in a cross crawl energy system. So for a strength coach, that's the cleanest way I can explain the subtle energies of the body. Now, our body has chemistry. So we learn it from Western allopathic, sense. Okay, we have chemistry, and we have bones and muscles and fascia and all this stuff. But we can't have any of that without having energy. So our biofield, our energy field is primary. And guys like Bruce Lipton will say that. You can't have the chemistry without the energy. So I look at the primary stuff. And what I feel, and I'm going to get a little even more heady here, the fascia system of our body is the everything for the new strength coach. And that fascia connects to your biofield, which connects to the ether, which connects to your environment. That's how I know when we close our eyes and we turn our head, that's how I know where we are in space. It's through that fascial connection throughout the energy systems of our body, connecting with our invisible environment, which is air, ether, plasma, where waves and particles travel through that you're not supposed to see unless you're in LA and it's all polluted and you can see it and smell it, but we don't see that. But that's the communication, that interplay we have with us and our environment. So to heighten those levels, to heighten that intuition, to heighten those energy systems, so you could feel around you. So if I'm hitting a tennis ball blind, I already know where the other guy is. I'm going the other way. Whether I see it, hear it, feel it, I just, that's where the top players can really start to take advantage of somebody.
So what does that mean from the practical piece of it? Because I know, in the book you talked about, you had the 3 pillars where develop conscious and unconscious awareness, whole exercises and whole brain exercises. So where does that fit in with, for example, I mean, I was kind of on board from the perspective of the whole brain when, I'm sure you can explain, how to get better coordination in the gym, how to get better awareness, how figure eights, what the nerve work might be, ambidexterity. Those I feel like I can put my finger on. So how do we, and the fascia stuff, which is really, we just had Amber Kivett on here talking all about fascia.
Yeah, I heard.
And we've had a bunch of other people on because it's a lot of talk is on fascia right now. So I can get behind that right easily. So talk to us about, because or am I supposed to team with you, and send my athletes to a naturopathic doc, right? You know what I mean? So like where can the strength coach, personal trainer put their mark on some of this?
Yeah. So the brain stuff, let me start with the brain stuff, because
Sure.
The first answer to is be positive with your people and boost them up versus tear them down and belittle. That's how you boost someone's energy system just right away. That's a simple answer. Yep. So when we're talking about brain entrainment, there's this whole thing with the delta and theta brainwave states. Are you familiar with those?
I mean, I've heard of them, but I wouldn't say like, yeah, I can explain them to you.
Okay, so this is huge. This is everything for performance. So this is for me. It's these are the things that that we want to really start to emphasize with strength coaches, because if someone comes in and they're just not present, or they're taking these focus drugs, and they're spun out, they're taking all this crap, this pharmaceutical stuff that's creating their body in turmoil, their mind somewhere else. uh, they're not present. And what that means to me is I look at brainwave states. Now we can measure with EGs, we can measure the speed of your brain waves when you're sleeping and resting, and then in performance and when you're awake. And they call those brainwave states, they call them different things for the different speeds of them. So when you're in a delta brainwave state, you're in the lowest and slowest state. You're in the deepest dream state. The waves, I convert everything into a wave per second, because everybody can understand wave per second, right? So when we're sleeping and deep sleep, our brainwave state is low and slow at 1 or below 1 to 4 hertz. And we're going to convert that to 1 to or below 1 to 4 waves per second. We're in a theta. This is a brainwave state where you're in that lucid dreams. You can start to create stuff. You can start, and guys like Albert Einstein would hold something in his hand, fall asleep in a chair, and when he fell asleep, he would drop that and he'd wake up. He wanted to get into theta, but he didn't know he could get there through breath work. And so that's where you get this creation, manifestation opportunity to foresee and already basically create what you're going to do a million times before you go and do it. That's how we optimize performance. You got to trick your body into this stuff. And because our body doesn't know the difference between past, present, or future. It just doesn't. And subconsciously, we don't know the difference. It's the same thing between our memory, reality, and imagination. So if we could start to create and repeat that ideal performance over and over again, you're going to get better results for yourself, aesthetically, physically, and performance-wise out of your clients. But you got to get them in the right brainwave states to get there. Now, the biggest thing, Anthony, is the alpha brainwave state. So this is where we're in the flow state. And this is why we teach juggling, because it creates a figure eight. That's why we do our speed drills non-linear. And like literally all the strength coaches, I've gone and audited programs for years, and still to this day, every major organization does linear warm-ups. It drives me nuts. Like I could go into any professional organization, anyone, NFL, NBA, and you name it, and MLB, and they're going to be doing straight line warm-ups. There's nothing going on in a straight line. So we got to get their bodies going in semicircles and figure eights through their warm-ups, especially through their warm-ups, and then definitely when they're training, to get them in the alpha brainwave state. That is the flow state, the what we know it is in the zone. When you're like, sure. Oh my God, that guy's in the zone. He can't miss. He's so hot. Give him the ball. That's the in the zone, the alpha brainwave state. There's something you could measure it. That's 8 to 13 hertz or waves per second. That is what we strive to get our athletes in. If you're just focusing on, bigger, faster, stronger, that's great. But even to do that, we got to give it in the right brainwave state, which is this alpha flow state. That's when they do that. So that's kind of where we're going with this performance and the intangibles and how it transfers over into strength training and performance.
Okay. Making more sense now with the figure eights and why you do the juggling because of the figure eights. And so again, to bring it back to the practical piece. So you're going to that warm up is going to be super important just to be like, okay, obviously they're coming in, we're positive. And then the warm-up's going to be this kind of multiplanar figure eights, working some different patterns to get them. What we're trying to accomplish in that first piece is to get them in that alpha brain state. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
You want a flow state, man. You got to get these guys in a flow state. And we do it through the coordination drills. We call them speed drills. We do them a little more precise. We do them shorter durations before you compete. If it's a workout, it's high intensity, high frequency through a full range of motion, up and down quick, not forward quick. So if you have a team you're working with or a bunch of guys, they're not running on top of each other from a slow guy, to a fast guy, because they're moving up and down super fast through a full range. But they're doing it in semicircles. So if you have a guy going this way, and he's going backwards, he'll start to go off into left field because his brain's so linearly trained. So once we start to get these guys doing nonlinear stuff, what you'll see is you'll see them perform at higher levels. You'll see their brain start ticking, and you'll develop more pathways from their brain to their body, more coordination, and there'll be less telegraphing, less unforced errors, more rhythmic, more alpha brainwave flow states where they're just performing optimally.
I love it. Can you just, before I move on to the ambidexterity, because I got I think it's a good segue into this, but just give us, because you were talking about a couple, speed drills, whatever. Give us one or two drills that just explain them. Remember, they're not seeing this video. So just explain, just so they can get a better visual picture of a drill that you would do to help them start getting there.
Oh, goodness. Well, what are my two favorite drills? Skipping and bounding are my two favorite drills out of all of them. And
so would you skip in figure eights?
Yeah, we do A skip. So at what coaches know is A skips. One knee would come up high all the way up to your shoulder. The other one would come up halfway. I do a different rhythm. So your feet would go, you'd go up with one bounce, and then you'd bounce down with both feet, and then you'd go up with the other knee. So it's called an A skip or a flamadoodle beat, where you're going up together, up with one foot, and then together down with both feet, and you're alternating cross crawl, but your knee goes all the way up to your chest, but you do it forwards, backwards, sideways, and then laterally. But you're doing it in a non-linear, you're doing it in a semicircle. So that's my favorite drill, because look how dynamic that is. I just taught you within that forwards, backwards, lateral, skipping on both sides equally and through a full range of motion. I mean, that's multiple drills right there with just one exercise. And then parallel bounding. Bounding's one of my other big ones that you could do it low, high. You can touch the opposite hand of the foot to the ground and then explode up. There's so many different ways. You can do all this stuff on inclines to get more performance. But again, you do those non-linear. You do them in semicircles. Obviously, the bounding, you just go straight ahead. But you go straight in a semicircle. So those are my two favorite drills that anyone looking to get better, do those with higher frequency, higher intensity through a fuller range of motion and not as much time on the ground on a lot of them. And you're going to see your performance improve like dramatically.
I love it. I think it's a great progression as well from some of the coaches, like, for example, Todd Wright. He teaches, kind of a Gary Gray disciple. And so talking, forward and back, side to side, then doing things in a circle. And this kind of, I like this idea of kind of, taking it to another level, which I feel like is what you're doing. Also reminds me of some of the Tim Anderson stuff, the original strength. Are you familiar with that? Where he does a lot of the cross crawl patterns, etc., marching, touching, that as well. So it seems like it's like original strength for athletes almost, right? So I love
definitely. I mean, those are all big names that were around for a while. I think Dean Brittingham, Marvin Marinovich, those were the guys that were kind of doing the out of the box stuff that I'm really referring to more so than anyone. And then the other lanes would be more conventional stuff that they were doing, that they started to get into more functional fitness. So it went from just training to functional training, and then on that totem pole, then we would fall into the performance side, where you get really more specific and explosive and doing things a little differently.
Very cool. Very cool. So just to, kind of clarify again, the whole brain exercises. So you're kind of, these are like bang for your buck things. So we're getting whole brain with whole body, because a lot of people might read that and think he's talking about the mental performance, right? Only. But no, you're talking about a whole nother level here. But what I like about it seems to me, is that we're getting some good bang for your buck with some of these physical exercises that are also going to work the whole brain. Am I right on that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's part of it. You don't have to work the brain just to do eye recognition or eye speed or ambidexterity stuff, like juggling wise. You get that when we're doing these speed drills, running, skipping, bounding, shuffling, change of direction in semicircles, which we convert that into a figure eight. You get all that brain training with those exercises, with the body exercises. That's why this whole concept is so profound. And when you start to do them the way we show you to do them, everything improves, versus doing linear of those and half-ass of those, like just kind of going through the motions. This stuff gets you to where we need to go. It moves the needle.
Yeah, I love it. And one thing I've always noticed, and I think why some of the, Todd Wright stuff had always resonated with me, was because you go to a gym and you're right, all you do see is linear. You don't even see lateral lunges. I mean, it's amazing. Never mind all the other stuff. Never mind some of the rotational stuff. So it's really interesting. It does take you to another level, and I love it, because I was thinking, oh man, is some of this stuff out of our not scope, but things that I'm not going to be able to do with my athletes, with my clients. And I feel like, the way you explain it is like, we're kind of getting bang for your buck on here. So I do want to ask you about some of the stuff as we age, because, if we have some older athletes, let's say even in their 30s, that like so stuff like the ambidextrous stuff, I will tell you, I played hockey my whole life, but then I took a long break, and I started up again. I go out there and I practice a lot on my own. And one thing I'm always trying to do is, for example, just carry the puck with my left hand, just carry the puck with my right hand. I make sure that I'm doing edge work on both legs. I'm always trying to work righty, lefty. Can you talk about the importance of that ambidexterity that you feel athletes should work on? And can you touch on, after that, the age thing? Is there, because a lot of people say, well, once you get to a certain age, you're not going to be able to learn to shoot lefty.
Yeah, I disagree with that for sure. So when I fell out of tennis, I picked up basketball. I went to Georgetown for summer school, and I fell in love with basketball. So I couldn't play tennis anymore, and because my wrists were the challenge. So whenever I'd hit a ball, I should have, if I found chiropractic care, maybe in high school, it would have saved me for college. But unfortunately, I didn't. So I could play everything else. So I picked up basketball, and I played that for the next 20 years, really high level. I taught myself how to dunk, because tennis is kind of a one-dimensional sport. Tennis players aren't known for jumping. So our program taught me how to jump and dunk, and Dean helped with that. But so anyhow, the what was I getting at?
The ambidextrity and the
ambidexterity. So when I basketball wise is when I would go to gyms, and one of the gyms I had, Shiley, we had a basketball court in Scripps Clinic in La Jolla, but even other gyms that I ran my program out of, I had basketball courts there, because that was what I felt I was best at. If I were to say what was my best sport, it would be basketball. So I'd go in and I'd post up with some guys and play, and I could tell right out of the gates, like if the guy was any good, if they would warm up and they were shooting with their opposite hand on the opposite side of the net, and uh, I knew they would just, the guys that were right-handed, and I'd play with guys that are in Europe. I'm like, man, if I had your size, your height, uh, I would be in the NBA. And these guys, they're playing professionally, but they're in Europe. They just couldn't crack that deal. And I'm like, look, you need to learn to use your left hand and be lethal under. Because
Yeah.
if you're going to your left and you're using it right, I mean, I'm swatting that thing all day long. So you just have more reach. You just have more coordination. It looks better, it feels better. So to be able to do layup shoots, post up, turn and each way and shoot, that's what I could do, because I could use both hands equally with inside the key. And it allowed me, I'm speaking about me, I didn't play at
That's
any
okay.
professional level, but it shows that I could take out guys that were way better than me because they weren't stable, number one, and then they weren't ambidextrous, number two. They were super linear. They would telegraph everything they're doing. And I could feel their energy. When you're D'ing up someone, you got to tap into their energy field to feel them, to know what they're going to do before they're going to even do it. And that's that intuition, that sense, those subtle energies that tie it all in together. But ambidexterity to me is pretty much everything. That's what our framework of our entire program is based on. We're one of the only, athleticism.com is one of the only true sports performance programs that actually has complete ambidexterity program. I mean, you've done the podcast for years. How many strength coaches actually claim they have that?
Yeah, no one's really, actually, the only person I've heard talking about this lately is at the World Golf Fitness Summit. There was a lot of golf coaches starting to talk about, swinging lefty and doing some work that way. But that's the only time I've really heard. And we've heard it. Okay, do it in the warm up, right?
Yeah.
From somebody like Vern Gambetta, do it in the warm up. There's going to be some value to throwing lefty if you're a righty, pitcher, whatever. But nothing into the whole program.
Yeah. So that's what allows our program to stand out amongst all the others. I think some of the other big names in the past that would do some good work would be like Dr. Yesus. He had some great stuff. And then for me, just being a strength coach, and when I was in my 30s, and I got recognized from my ambidexterity program. So if you want to stand out amongst all the others, that's what in the beginning of the book, I talk about how our program stood out and how Dean Brittingham stood out from all the other strength coaches in the NBA. And that's how Gray got hired, is our programs are so different. Tim Brown, he's one of the co-medical directors for the WSL, the World Surf League. That's the Pro Surf Tour. He was one of my biggest referring docs for a decade. And when we first met, he's like, man, you're doing stuff no one's doing. Like, this is, ambidexterity is everything for sports and training. And so it allowed me to be referred, some of the top athletes in the world by some of the biggest docs ever to train them. And I had multiple athletes in multiple different sports. And so that was the other thing our program does, is it crosses the barrier from just being a one sport strength coach. You're like Bill Henry, he was a baseball guy. He couldn't fit in any other, sport. So, and I'm one of the few that can cross over and have trained the best in the world, individuals and teams in most every sport. Hockey, from the Dustin Penners out there to the Adrian Gonzalez's of baseball.
Very cool. I want to finish up the last 10 minutes here on the leading stressor that's disrupting performance. You talked about it earlier. You mentioned it with the EMFs. I told everybody, you sent me the EMF bag, the grounding bag that I've been using on my bed. And so I want to talk, can you just tell everybody what EMFs are? And then
EMFs are electromagnetic fields or frequencies. They can be both native or non-native. And so the native ones we've already talked about are their own subtle energies of the universe, the cosmic, stuff out there that we're one with. The non-native are all electricity, dirty electricity, wireless signals that we're bathing in. And so what got me into this space, and with our EMFrocks.com grounding bags, we're now one of the leading natural EMF protection products sold through doctor clinics. And what got me into this was strength training. And one of the strongest, fittest guys comes in, he's an endurance athlete. He goes, Justin, my wrist hurts. And I said, where? And he pointed right to where his watch was. And I looked down, and this was over a dozen years ago when those Fitbits were being recalled.
Yeah.
And Anthony, I said, hey, take that watch off your wrist. I said, that's radiation. No wonder your wrist's hurting. And he said, radiation? I said, yeah. So he takes it off, the pain goes away. And I mean, that was when I used to wear a watch all the time. You couldn't ever find me without a watch when I was younger, until I started figuring out the difference between this stuff. And so that's what got me into it. Our pros were breaking down from the wearable tech, and I looked to nature's resonance to solve it, and it's working.
So what is the protocol? So for example, I have the rocks. I've been sleeping with them. Is that the only thing you're doing? Or for example, is it something that I can use all day, put it by my desk if I feel like, because I'm not going to be able to keep the cell phone away, right? So there's that piece. So obviously that's going to be doing some damage. So talk to me about how people can use these to help not only performance, but life, their health.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a big topic, man. I mean, this is just opening up a whole new can of worms. And what I want to start with it is I interviewed the former Lakers strength coach, and he was talking about how he could test athletes, and they would wireless, radiate them to death every day. They were doing testing every day. And he's like, I developed a formula that can to tell when our athletes were going to get injured by how many steps they took and all this stuff. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. Like, that's a stressor on their body. You're weakening them. You're dehydrating them every time you're putting millimeter waves, like wireless signals, to track them. And for me as a strength coach, we can do a baseline test, a midpoint, and an endpoint, right? Like, I don't track athletes every day. You don't do a speed test. How fast are you every day? Like, you just don't. They can't. You don't do a one max rep every day. They can't do it. You don't test athletes every day. So we got to get out of this meta universe baloney of testing ourselves every day or testing our athletes every day. We got to get back into knowing how we feel, how we slept, when it's time to eat, how many steps we took. That's the intuition. That's connecting with the earth's resonance and grounding, getting grounded by nature and connecting to God above. That will heighten your performance versus some watch telling you what to do or how you did. So that's the first thing I want to really emphasize on this whole tracking thing. Now, the grounding bags, just alone, what we do is we've established protocols to how we use nature's resonance when we do use technology, because we do all have cell phones and work on computers and such. Well, we have a mini grounding bag that you carry. We have full-size grounding bags that you put on your bed. You'll sleep up to 60% better. Your circulation will improve over 52%. I mean, the markers, if you have health markers off other than circulation, they'll improve up to 91%. Like, the tests are there as far as coherence with our environment. So to me, one of the biggest things now, and I'll use this because we see this all the time, are these guys wearing the wireless earbuds. It drives me absolutely berserk, because what happens is you're taking their brainwave state out of a coherent state, and you're putting them into a fight or flight stressful state because of the speed of the radiation in their inner ear, where there's an airway canal essentially to their brain. So if our athletes perform at 8 to 13 hertz or waves per second, And this wireless earbuds are in the billions of waves per second of a one directional polarizing waveform. That's going to take them into a sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, when they need to be in parasympathetic rest digest and in a slower and slower brainwave state. So for me, it's you can quantify this stuff and these stressors. And if you want to have kids, like, stop putting the laptop over your reproductive organs. I mean, it's super simple. Stop driving electric cars because you're sitting on a massive battery. That's going to lower your testosterone 18%. So when I was younger, and I mean, obviously testosterone fluctuates as we get older, but man, I had endless energy. And now the kids, I just don't see them with that. I just don't see them. And they're, because of all the tech, because their testosterone's being a disruptor. This isn't an endocrine disruptor that's messing with their T levels upwards of 18 to 20%.
What are some other endocrine disruptors that we're exposed to? Just plastics?
Oh yeah, the microplastics. There's a guy named Ian Clark. Ian Clark is activation products, is great, some other great supplements. He'll talk about just driving around the rubber, like just not microplastics, but the rubber from the tires and the brakes being off gassed. They fall into literally razor blade shaped nanoparticles that we get accumulated in our body. So when you get into the 40s, you're like, oh, my knees kind of are sore, they get arthritic. Well, no, it's not arthritis. It's the microtoxins in your system causing the inflammation. Even more so, and some foods might trigger it, like the nightshades, inflammatory foods of tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplants, tobaccos. But for me, you do his activator technique. It's a percussion slapping technique for 5 minutes on each area. You won't have any of those injuries anymore. You won't have that inflammation because we're getting those toxins out. So there's tons of endocrine disruptors. Obviously, the other big one for the fascia, I think, is the chemtrails. The cloud seeding, they're dropping barium, strontium, and aluminum. The barium is dehydrating our fascia. So to rehydrate your fascia, you got to take diatomaceous earth, which is silica in it, which our bodies, I mean, let's just look at our bodies. Like, what is our body comprised of, everybody?
Water.
Me. I mean,
water.
Like energy, water, right? Silica as well. And we're light beings, and our bodies rev through pressured systems. That's why strength training creates pressure, creates fascial connections, and gets you stronger and more dynamic. We're a pressured system. Our heart's not a pump. We're electric beings. So if you dehydrate that system and you don't allow that pressure to fully optimize, you're not going to perform at the higher level. So we got to rehydrate our fascia with the silica and then the right minerals as well. So those are the different endocrine disruptors and how we look at the body in a whole different way than most people.
Awesome. This stuff is so interesting. I can't even believe we've been on the phone for about an hour right now. I can't believe it. So much to learn. I'm loving the book so far, and I'm gonna go a little deeper with the EMF rocks. I gotta be carrying these things with me now.
Yeah,
too.
they're a game changer, man. I mean, I treat concussions. It clears concussions right away. Oh, the other thing too, the big thing. So this is a big thing for me. I'll end up with two notes here.
Sure.
One, I'll talk about fascial maneuvers, but I want to talk about these stinking smartphones right now. On the front of your phone, you'll see at the top, there'll be the 4 cameras, and they'll have the facial recognition one, and then they'll have just the camera. If you go in your settings, turn off all the facial recognition. So what that is, that's a infrared radar. Holy crap. You have radar looking at you a few feet away from your phone 24/7. Radar. That's ionized radiation. What that's going to do is cause macular degeneration. It's going to mess with people's vision and screw up their eyes early on. So for me, the eyes are huge. We do so much eye speed recognition, focus training. If we lose that polarity in the eyes and we start to chip away at those eyes, your performance is gone. I've had so many guys that go in and the MLB guys for sure, and then they get the eyes screwed, and then they're done. Their career's over.
Not reversible?
No. The one of them in particular, he was a first round draft pick, and his vision started not working at night. So they're like, oh, do LASIK, and the LASIK screwed him up. So the organizations are screwing these guys up. So anyhow, but let me go back to the iPhone. Turn off those settings for facial recognition. It's the most important thing. Yesterday I had a concussion client in, and I do applied kinesiology. I muscle test people. So I encourage people to learn muscle testing, applied kinesiology. And anyhow, I just held the phone up to him. I just said, here, look at your phone. And I had him put his arm out, and I'm like, and I go, hold strong. He goes weak, just looking at his phone with the screen on. And I was holding the phone. He wasn't. And he's like, what the heck? I'm like, well, I go, turn your facial recognition off. He turns his facial recognition off. I hold it up. I go, look at your phone. I couldn't move his arm. He was strong.
Wow.
It messes with your eyes. So let's stop messing with your eyes. Like, again, the awareness of our environment is key for performance. We can't just look at, just the strength stuff anymore.
Sure.
Like, it's just that this is more, that's why I love the homeopathy is it's not just one thing. The old homeopathy was you took like for like and you had one thing and you treated this one condition. Well, now the new model is like, hey, we can do bioenergetic healing. We could do, grounding outside. We can do nutrition stuff. We can do hydration stuff. There's all these different elements that go into it. You can rest. Like sleep is a huge thing. And that's why I love getting the deeper sleep with the grounding backs, because it allows you to get 60% deeper sleep. Because when you're resting, you're adding to your performance. There's no no's. When you say no to someone to going out at night, you're saying yes to your body and to healing you and to giving yourself a better performance. So just think about that. The last thing I want to end up with for all the strength coaches out there, the biggest thing you got to get with is humangarage.net. Human Garage, their fascia maneuver systems, and it's a cross your body, cross your arms, cross your legs, counter rotate and breathe program. It's breath work and fascia maneuvers all in one. Just from this alone, I've gotten more powerful. Just from doing that system alone, my fascial adhesions throughout the body, I'm wringing out all the crap and I'm getting stronger as I do them. I highly recommend leaning in on that. I'm a brand partner for Human Garage. I'm on their Instagram every Friday, noon Pacific time, talking about EMFs, fascia, and all things health. But it's one of the coolest, simple programs. And guess what, everyone? It's free. So check it out. Do their stuff. You'll perform better, and your body's just going to optimize.
Love it. All right. So I'm going to make sure we have links to all the stuff we're talking about to put in the show notes. Justin, this has been great. It's been really interesting. I'll remind everybody, we'll have a link to the book too. It's called Athleticism, and links to EMFrocks.com. But thank you so much for coming on and at least getting this conversation started. I really appreciate you.
Oh, likewise, Anthony. It's awesome for you bringing all this new stuff out there and bringing it to the forefront. So I appreciate you.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 391 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Guys, the show notes are located at strengthcoachpodcast.com. Don't forget, you can try both strengthcoach.com and mbsc.tv out for 7 days for free. Go to those respective websites to get or to start your free trial now. Special thanks to Chris Parrier and the folks over at Perform Better. Don't forget, huge holiday sale on right now, up to 50% over 100 items: dumbbells, kettlebells, plyo boxes, bumper plates, racks, barbells, sandbags, so much more. Got a couple free webinars coming up in December. Jessica Bento, Redefining Kettlebell Training on December 10th. And Corey Smallwood, AI-powered fitness sources master chat GPT. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Justin Frandson for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning, performance enhancement, and athleticism. Thanks to Sumit, Seth, and Naamly, helping build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Guys, check out the show notes for Naamly's free Fitness Business Boost Bundle. 3 gifts to you, a checklist, 51 ways to acquire clients without running ads, a cheat sheet, 12 places to look to hire star trainers, and a guide, 9 secrets to increase your retention. Check that out in the show notes. Guys, that's going to do it for this episode. My name's Anthony Renna. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.